Call.
Councilman Duper.
Present.
Councilman Pescu. Here. Mayor Pro Tempore Leonard.
Here.
Mayor Rigsby.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin with the invocation and pledge of allegiance led by me. Let's stand. Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, we thank you for your leadership of our city. Thank you for guiding us in being your representatives in the leadership of our city. We ask that you help us review our finances and to celebrate the successes of our city staff. In your name, amen. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any added or deleted items?
No, sir.
Okay, would the public like to speak on any topic not on the agenda? No takers. We'll go to our single item on the agenda. Item 1, joint meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority, and I'm opening the Housing Authority officially to do that, and we have a presentation from our auditors.
Mayor, council members, today we have our auditors here to present our financial statements. We have Veronica Hernandez from RAMS, which is our independent auditors, and then we'll have Sonia Fabella from the Finance Department to do the presentation for the Finance Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Honorable Mayor, council members, before I start, I would like to give a thanks to the Finance Department for being so helpful, and I really appreciate working with you guys, and you guys are always get everything to us in a timely manner, and we appreciate the opportunity to serve as the city's auditors. I'm going to start off by going over some responsibilities. The city's responsibilities are to present the city's financial position and results of its operations fairly in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles, to adopt sound accounting policies, provide reasonable accounting estimates, establish and maintain internal controls that prevent and detect fraud. Some of our responsibilities is to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement, examine on a test basis evidence supporting those amounts and disclosures, assessing the accounting principles used, the estimates made, and evaluate the overall financial statement presentation. And we also look at the city's internal control policies and procedures and ultimately express an opinion on the city's financial statements. Our opinion is that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. All significant accounting policies have been consistently applied from year to year. Estimates appear reasonable and disclosures have been properly reflected. Other key points to note is there have been no disagreements with management, no material errors or irregularities have been discovered, and no significant accounting issues have been discovered. Thank you.
So what's next? The slideshow? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for allowing us to have this adjourned meeting to present the city's annual audit. You have before you copies of the city's 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. I will be referring to the report as a CAFR for short. The presentation will go over the financial statements of the city. The report is made up of 3 major sections that include the introductory, financial, and statistical section. The introductory section includes transmittal letter that highlights the city's profile and significant events and accomplishments, the Government Finance Officer Association Award, a list of principal officers in place during fiscal year 2018, and an organization chart. Financial section includes the auditor's report, management's discussion and analysis, the financial statements, notes, and required supplementary information, and supplementary information that compares budget to actual for each governmental fund. And finally, the statistical section that includes financial trends, revenue and debt capacity, demographic, economic information, and operating information. The financial statements include the city, the Loma Housing Authority, and the successor agency, which is a private purpose trust fund. The financial presentation of the governmental funds include funds at their modified accrual basis of accounting, and the government-wide statements, which means taking the fund financials and converting them to full accrual basis of accounting to report the city as a whole and give a comparable view to the enterprise funds that are also run at full accrual. Next, we will show a recap of the more important sections of the statements. The beginning net position, as restated, shows a net change in position of $948,000 for the governmental funds and a decrease of $555,000 for the business type activities, netting $393,000 change and bringing the net position of the city to $134 million. The beginning net position was restated to $104,667,751 for the governmental activities and $28,988,936 for the business type activities. If you want to see a more expanded schedule of this page, you can look at the CAFR page 17 and 18. The net position for governmental activities totaled $105.6 million and $28.4 million for the business type activities. I would like to note that the invested in capital asset net of related debt decreased by $1,024,205 and $522,116 for the business type activities from last year due to a change in the city's capital asset policy that increased the capitalization threshold from 1,000 to 5,000. The assets that were below the threshold were removed from the city's books. In the statement of activities, we can see that the cost for the city to run governmental activities after applying the program revenues was $15.8 million, while the cost to run the business type activities was $1.3 million after offsetting this cost with total general revenues of almost $17.5 million. There is positive change of $393,154. The increase from fiscal year 2017 to 2018 is $2.5 million due to almost $1 million received and accrued for measurized sales tax used to work on the realignment of California Street, and $487,000 received towards the year end for the sale of the property on Richardson Street. Around $500,000 more in investment revenue as well. This slide shows the general fund balance classifications. The general fund balance in total had an increase of $2.2 million. A new designation was added to fund balance to set aside $2 million for unfunded liabilities, and that is why you see the higher balance in this year's assigned fund balance. The general fund had revenues of $20.4 million and expenditures of $19.3 million, as well as other financing sources of $1.1 million. This resulted in an increase of fund balance of $2.2 million, making it $2,120,630 more than in fiscal year 2017. This slide shows a summary of the general fund's budgetary comparison. As seen on this slide, the original budgeted expenditures were increased through budget adjustments either at mid-year or throughout the year by $1,159,500. However, the additional amount was not spent. The conservative spending and personnel costs, professional and contractual services, maintenance and repairs, and a difference in timing for economic incentives, as well as savings in the cost for a master plan environmental report for Area D. For revenues, the original budget was increased by $897,800. However, the revenues exceeded the adjusted amount by $720,833. The higher increases were due to higher sales taxes, permitting activities, investment earnings, and a federal grant that was not budgeted. The other increase was in other financing sources for the sale of the property on Richardson Street. As seen here, the change in net position, which is the end result of operations for the business type funds, was a negative $554,812, which made up the positive change for the water enterprise and sewer capital, and negative changes for the water acquisition and for the Loma Linda connected communities. The decrease in water acquisition fund was mainly due to a transfer of capital assets to the water enterprise fund, and the decrease in the Loma Linda connected communities is due to an increase of expenses compared to the prior year, as well as a lack of revenues to offset the accruing interest on the loan owed to the successor agency. Although the water enterprise had a positive net change, the decrease from prior year is due to a decrease in the amount of assets transferred from water acquisition fund. Last year there was more equipment such as a Caterpillar backhoe and a valve turning apparatus, as well as a SCADA update. The sewer capital had $266,000 more revenues than expenditures, therefore causing a positive $261,000 change in net position from operations. This is the statement for the successor agency, and it can be found on page 32 of the CAFR. The net position of the successor agency increased by $6.4 million due to a negative $15.4 million due to long-term debt repayment of $4.4 million, as well as an increase in cash of $1.5 million. The statement of changes in fiduciary net position can be found on page 33 of the CAFR. In this slide, we see the successor agency received $7.2 million in property taxes for 2018 fiscal year through the ROPS process. The expenses incurred of almost $1.4 million were for general and administrative charges, as well as interest charges on the long-term debt such as bonds and loans from the city. The restatement to the beginning balance of $5,881 was to correct the accrued interest on the loans owed to the city. This concludes the presentation. We would like to thank everyone from every department for their assistance in the preparation of the city's 2018 CAFR. Everyone was very helpful in contributing, and a special thank you to Kavita Prasad for her hard work and diligence all year long, but also in gathering information from outside sources for the statistical part of the CAFR. Thank you.
I asked my questions in the audit committee, so yeah. We have to accept it, don't we? Well, what's in the... I don't have a staff report to know what the recommendation is. Is there a motion needed?
There wasn't really an action agendized, but to accept it is not anything unusual in this situation.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a motion to accept the report. A second? Any further discussion? Does anybody from the public want to talk about it? I didn't get any requests. Anybody from the government? Yeah, from, okay, so then we'll just take the vote.
Can I add a
Go ahead.
comment? That
Go
I want
ahead.
to thank you, the staff. As you notice, the summary is for the general fund, we have an increase in reserve of about $2.2 million, of which $1.1 million come from additional increase in revenue, and another $1.5 million came from reduction in expenditure. So that's how we came up with the 2.2. So I'd like to commend the staff for working with me on not spending as much and doing a good job at make more revenue. So
Holding the budget tight,
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
as well as very helpful work from our finance department to get all of this stuff done. It's a huge amount of work. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Sonia, this is a big effort on her part, working with the auditors and just coordinating all the documents and getting through preparing the financial statements. So she's very dedicated to preparing this document.
And that was an excellent report, too. Very good job. So I guess we'll have the vote. Is there any opposition to accepting it? No opposition, then it passes unanimously. We've accepted it. So as far as the city council goes, there are no other enumerated items. Any reports of councilmen? Any reports of officers? Hearing none, the city council's adjourned, but then we go to our housing authority. Does it have any items to add or delete?
No, sir.
Any comments from the public on the housing authority for non-agendized items? Hearing none, we've already taken care of item 1, the joint meeting. We have a consent calendar, which is our annual housing report. So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Any opposition? Hearing none. It's approved unanimously. Any chair or member reports? Any reports of officers? Hearing none on either, we're adjourned. And there is no successor agency this meeting. So we're done. Thank you all for coming. You get